Today we will be discussing about document object model and event handling in JavaScript. The HTML DOM stands for document object model. When a web page is loaded, the browser creates a document object model of the page. The HTML DOM model is constructed as a tree of objects as in the picture. The document, see the root is document here in this diagram. It's a, it's a tree of objects. So document is our web page. Root element is there. That root element is HTML. So all the head and body sections are enclosed in HTML and /HTML. So in HTML we will be having two children, head and body. So on the left hand side we will be having head element, title element, etc. So inside title a text is there. Here it is my title. You can give any title for the title tag. On the right hand side we will be having body. So a number of HTML elements are there. You can create your user interface using the available HTML elements. So here in body we have anchor element. So one attribute href is specified here and a text value is there. My link is the text. And another HTML element is h1. It's a header and the text given is my header. All these text given is user defined. You can change according to your need. With the object model, JavaScript gets all the power it needs to create dynamic HTML. We have two different types of web pages, static web pages and dynamic web pages. Static web pages means whatever you are seeing when a web page is loaded, that content will not get changed. There is no user interaction. On the other hand, when you are creating a dynamic HTML, you can communicate or interact with your web page. User interactions are there. So here, JavaScript can change all the HTML elements in the page. JavaScript can change all the HTML attributes in the page. JavaScript can change all the CSS styles in the page. JavaScript can remove existing HTML elements and attributes. JavaScript can add new HTML elements and attributes. JavaScript can react to all existing HTML events in the page. JavaScript can create new HTML events in the page. So all these JavaScript features are used for creating dynamic HTML. We will see more about document object model. First, what is the DOM? The DOM or document object model is a World Wide Web Consortium standard or W3C standard. The DOM defines a standard for accessing documents. The World Wide Web Consortium or W3C document object model is a platform and language neutral interface that allows programs and scripts to dynamically access and update the content, structure, and style of a document. That means using JavaScript, you can dynamically access and update the content, structure, and style of a document by using program. Here, JavaScript is our programming script language. The W3C DOM standard is separated into three different parts. First part is core DOM, second part is XML DOM, and the third part is HTML DOM. Core DOM is standard model for all document types. XML DOM, that is a standard model for XML documents. And the third part is HTML DOM, that is a standard model for HTML documents. That is what we are discussing here. The HTML DOM is a standard object model and programming interface for HTML. It defines HTML elements as objects, the properties of all HTML elements, the method to access all HTML elements, the events for all HTML elements. So here we are considering HTML elements as objects, and it is having different properties that will be discussed here, and methods are there to access all HTML elements using JavaScript, and event handling is there for all HTML elements. In other words, the HTML DOM is a standard for how to get, change, add or delete HTML elements. You will get more idea about all these things when we work with programs or HTML web pages. There are DOM methods. First we are discussing JavaScript HTML DOM methods. HTML DOM methods are actions you can perform on HTML elements. HTML DOM properties are values of HTML elements that you can set or change. So here two things are there: methods and properties. Methods are actions you can perform, and properties are values that you can set on a particular HTML element. The DOM programming interface. The HTML DOM can be accessed with JavaScript and with other programming languages also. In the DOM, all HTML elements are defined as objects. The programming interface is the properties and methods of each object. A property is a value that you can get or set, like changing the content of an HTML element or modifying it. A method is an action you can do, like add or delete an HTML element. We will see get element by ID method and inner HTML property that will give more clarity to HTML DOM methods and HTML DOM properties. The get element by ID method. The most common way to access an HTML element is to use the ID of the element. Get element by ID, that is the method name, and almost all the examples in our slide is using ID is equal to demo. The ID value given as demo to find the element. So get element by ID is the method name. Suppose one particular element, any element that is having an ID value that is set to demo, then get element by ID in bracket demo will identify that particular element. Another thing, inner HTML property. The easiest way to get the content of an element is by using the inner HTML property. The inner HTML property is useful for getting or replacing the content of HTML elements. Suppose you are identifying a particular element by its ID by using get element by ID method. Then suppose we are attaching inner HTML property by using a dot, that is a operator there, dot operator, and you are assigning a particular value for inner HTML, then the identified elements value or content will be replaced by using the value assigned with inner HTML that we will see later in a program. The HTML DOM document object. The document object represents your web page. The document, it's an object that represents your entire web page. If you want to access any element in an HTML page, you always start with accessing the document object. Document, that is the name of the document object. Some examples are given here. How you can use the document objects to access and manipulate HTML. For accessing and manipulating HTML, we have a number of methods. Three example methods are here for finding HTML elements. Here, document dot get element by ID in bracket ID. So that is the first method given here for finding an element by element ID. Get element by ID is the method there. So document dot get element by ID bracket in bracket you need to specify ID. For example, ID is equal to demo. Instead of ID we need to specify demo as the parameter here. So document is your web page. It's an object. From that object you need to find out a particular element using its ID. For that we are using get element by ID. Likewise, we can identify an element by using its tag name and class name. For that, another two methods are here. Document.getElements by ID is for finding an element by element ID. Similarly, document.getElements by tag name for finding elements by its tag name. Tag name is the HTML element name. Another thing is here document.getElements by class name. In bracket, you need to specify the class name for finding elements by class name. So these are some of the methods for finding HTML elements. So here some examples are specified. Element dot inner HTML equal to new HTML content. Suppose we are finding out the element by using document dot get element by ID. Then that method will identify the element by executing that command, that is document dot get element by ID in bracket demo dot inner HTML. In that particular case, an ID is set to demo for a particular element will be identified by document dot get element by ID. So in this particular case, element dot inner HTML, that element is explicitly given here. For example, paragraph element p dot inner HTML. Likewise, we need to specify that is equal to new HTML content. So here change the inner HTML of an element. Inner HTML means the content of an element. Second example, element dot attribute is equal to new value. Change the attribute value of an HTML element. So here an element's HTML element's attribute value is being changed. Element dot set attribute comma value. Change the attribute value of an HTML element. Element dot style dot property equal to new style. Change the style of an HTML element. So all these things we will discuss in programs. Adding and deleting elements. Document dot create element. Create an HTML element. A new HTML element is being created. Document dot remove child element. Remove an HTML element. Document dot append child element. Add an HTML element. Document dot replace child. Replace an HTML element. Document dot write text. Write into the HTML output stream that already discussed in the previous or last class lab session. Finding HTML objects. The first HTML DOM level 1 that is in 1998 defined 11 HTML objects, object collections and properties. These are still valid in HTML5. That means a backward compatibility is there. Starting from HTML's first version till the HTML5, all the HTML objects, object collections and properties are valid now also. Later in HTML DOM level 3, more objects, collections and properties were added, and in HTML5 again more objects, collections and properties are added. Some example properties and its descriptions are given here. Document.anchors retains all anchor tags or A elements that have a name attribute. Document.applets retain all applet elements deprecated in HTML5. It is not available with HTML5 because applets are not supported in HTML5. Document.base URI retains the absolute base URI of the document. Document.body retains the body element. Document.cookie retains the document's cookie. Document.doctype retains the document's doctype. Document element that retains the HTML element. Document mode retains the mode used by the browser. Document URI retains the URI of the document. Document.domain that retains the domain name of the document. Document.dom config, now it is obsolete, retains the DOM configuration. Now it is not working. DOM config property is not at all available with new web browsers. Document.embeds retains all embed elements. Some more properties are there. Document.forms retains all form elements. Document.head retains the head element. Document.images retains all img or image elements. Document.implementation retains the DOM implementation. Document.input encoding retains the document's encoding or character set. Document.last modified retains the last time, date and time the document was updated. Document.links retains all area and anchor elements that have an href hyperreference attribute. Document.ready state retains the loading status of the document. Document.referrer retains the URI of the referrer, the linking document. Document.scripts retains all script elements. Document.strict error checking retains if error checking is enforced. Document.title retains the title element, and document.url retains the complete URL of the document. Okay, just go through all the properties and its descriptions starting from document anchors till document URL. Finding HTML elements. We already discussed how to find an element by its ID. Often with JavaScript you want to manipulate HTML elements. To do so, you have to find the elements first. There are a couple of ways to do this. Finding HTML elements by ID, finding HTML elements by tag name, finding HTML elements by class name. Two more things are there: finding HTML elements by CSS selectors and finding HTML elements by HTML object collections. First we will see how to find HTML elements by using its ID. The easiest way to find an HTML element in the DOM or document object model is by using the element ID. This example finds the element with ID is equal to intro. In our example, var my element is equal to document.getElement by ID intro. So my element is a variable here that will be having a particular element name after executing document.getElement by ID intro. For example, one element is there and an ID attribute is set to intro, then that particular element will be identified by the getElement by ID intro method from the document, and that value will be assigned to my element variable. We will see one example here. Finding HTML elements by tag name. This example finds all paragraph elements. In our example, there is a particular command like or instruction like varx is equal to document.getElements by tag name p. So here we have used tag name identification of elements by using tag name. In our program, we have specified doc type to HTML. Following the doc type element, we have an HTML element, then body element, then three different paragraph elements are set. So fourth paragraph tag is set with an ID value that is equal to demo. We will see how it works. So in our script, varx is equal to document.getElements by tag name p is specified, followed by another script command is there, document.getElement by id demo dot inner html is equal to the first paragraph index 0 is plus x of 0 dot inner html semicolon. We will see how it works. So here, when that is varx is equal to document.getElements by tag name p, will identify all the five, not 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraph elements specified in our HTML code or in our web page. So there are 4 different p elements that will be assigned to x as 4 different elements. So x becomes an array of elements. So now x is an array. In JavaScript, arrays are considered as objects. So x is now consist of 4 paragraph elements. So x of 0 will be the first paragraph element with the content hello world. X of 1 will be the second paragraph element with the content the DOM is very useful. And the third paragraph element is having, this example demonstrates get elements by tag name method. So that is in the x of 2 position. And the fourth, that is x of 3, is having another paragraph element without any content. That particular paragraph's id is set to demo. So in our second instruction in the script, document.getElement by id demo, that will identify the fourth paragraph element where id value is set to demo, and the content of that particular value will be updated by using the property inner html with the assigned value. That is, the first paragraph index of 0 is x of 0 dot inner html. Here x of 0 is only the specified element, so x of 0 will represent the first paragraph element with the content hello world. So the content will be hello world followed by an exclamation mark. That is what is going to display after the comment. The first paragraph index of 0 is colon hello world exclamation. Okay, so this is how this program is working. Now we will see another example, finding html elements by class name. If you want to find all HTML elements with the same class name, use getElements by class name method. This example returns a list of elements with class is equal to intro. In our HTML code, followed by HTML and body tags, we have 4 paragraph elements. The first paragraph element content is hello world, followed by 2 paragraph with class name is equal to intro and the contents are different, and the fourth paragraph is set with an id demo. In our script, variable var x is equal to document.getElements by class name intro. So document.getElements by class name will search for all the elements with a class name is set to intro. So here we have 2 paragraph elements with class is equal to intro. So both the paragraph elements will be assigned in x. That is, x of 0 is the first paragraph element with the content the DOM is very useful. and x of 1 is the second paragraph element with the content. This example demonstrate, etc. And here in our script, see the second command document.getElementById by id demo dot inner html is equal to the first paragraph index of 0 with class is equal to intro plus x of 0 dot inner html. So that will identify the element with the demo, that is demo id. Get element by id demo, that will identify the paragraph element with the id set to demo, and the inner html property will set a particular value or content in that particular paragraph element. That is the first paragraph in bracket index of 0 with class is equal to intro, that's a comment, followed by a value concatenation is specified x of 0 dot inner html. X of 0 is the first paragraph element where class is equal to intro and the content is the DOM is very useful. So x of 0 identifies the first paragraph tag with the class value is equal to intro, and dot inner html is the content of that particular paragraph element, that is the DOM is very useful. So that is what going to attach with the comment the first paragraph index of 0 with class is equal to intro colon, and that value is displayed. This is how get elements by class name works. Finding HTML by CSS selectors. If you want to find all HTML elements that matches a specified CSS selector like ID, class name, type, attribute, values of attributes, etc., use the query selector all method. Here in our example, returns a list of all paragraph elements with class is equal to intro. That is var x is equal to document dot query selector all p dot intro. P is the tag name and intro is the class name. So dot represents class, hash represents id. So here p dot intro represents paragraph with class name is equal to intro. So all the paragraph elements with class is equal to intro will be selected by document dot query selector all method, provided p dot intro is the argument. Finding HTML elements by HTML object collections. This example finds the form element with id is equal to frm1 in the forms collection and displays all element values. In our example, variable x is set, that is equal to document.forms frm1. var text is specified, an empty string is assigned, followed by I variable is defined without any initialization. Then a for loop is set for I is equal to 0, I less than x dot length I plus plus, text plus equal to, that means text is equal to text plus x dot elements of I dot value and a break. So this will find the form element with id is equal to form1 from variable x. So x dot elements of I, that is finding all the element with id is equal to frm1 in the forms collection and displays all the element values, that is x dot element of I dot value, that will display all element values. So that is attaching to a text variable. Text is the name of the variable and that value is displayed by using document dot get element by id demo dot inner html, and that element is assigned text, that is a value to be assigned to the element with id is equal to demo. Some HTML objects and object collections are specified for using in HTML DOM. Document.anchors, document.body, document.document element, document.embed, document.forms, document.head, document.images, document.links, document.scripts, document.title. Here, one example animation program is shared with you. You need to copy and execute this animation and find the working of the program. So CSS is there and HTML elements are using those CSS declarations. From a corner of your screen, a particular colored box will be moving from that position to the opposite direction. So this is a simple exercise for you. You need to copy paste the code and try to execute it. The next thing is events, reacting to events. For example, suppose when you click on a particular button, what to be displayed by your web page. So this is a reaction to an event. A JavaScript can be executed when an event occurs, like when a user clicks on an HTML element. To execute code when a user clicks on an element, JavaScript code is added to an HTML event attribute. So we have different events in HTML. One simple example is on click. So that is assigned a JavaScript code. For example, we can create functions and define the function name as the value for on click event. Examples of HTML events are when a user clicks the mouse, when a web page has loaded completely, when an image has been loaded completely, when the mouse moves over an element, when an input field is changed, when an HTML form is submitted, when a user strokes a key. These are some of the examples of HTML events. We will see one example here. It's a very simple example. In our body tag, h1 is a header tag that is set with an on-click attribute that is equal to this dot inner HTML is equal to clicked. So click on this text, that is the content of h1. When you click on that particular heading with the comment or label, click on this text, that will show clicked. Why? On click is equal to this dot inner HTML is equal to click, that is a value assigned to a particular event handler. On click is the event handler here. The value assigned is this dot. This represents the current element or current object. So h1 is the current object. h1 dot inner HTML is equal to clicked. Inner HTML property will change the content of the element. So here element is this, that represents h1, the current object itself. So the content of that particular element is click on this text, that will be changed to clicked. That is how it is working. So it's a simple example for event handling in JavaScript. We will see some other examples also. JavaScript HTML DOM event listener. The add event listener method is used here. For example, add an event listener that fires when a user clicks a button. For that, we need to use document.getElementById by id my button for identifying that particular element with the id my button, and we need to add event listener. For that, the method dot add event listener is defined here with two arguments. One is the click event and the display date. Okay, we will see how it works. The add event listener method attaches an event handler to the specified element. The add event listener method attaches an event handler to an element without overwriting existing event handlers. You can add many event handlers to one element. You can add many event handlers of the same type to one element, that is two click events. You can specify for one element, two or more. You can add event listeners to any DOM object, not only HTML elements, that is the window object also. The add event listener method makes it easier to control how the event reacts to bubbling. When using add event listener method, the JavaScript is separated from the HTML markup for better readability and allows you to add event listeners when you do not control the HTML markup. You can easily remove an event listener by using remove event listener method. We will look into add event listener method. More details about that particular method is specified by its syntax. Element dot add event listener. Three arguments are there: event, function, use capture. The first parameter is the type of the event, that is click or mouse down, mouse pressed, mouse released, etc. The second parameter is the function we want to call when the event occurs. When you click on a particular element or a particular mouse down event is enabled, then what to be executed. The third parameter is a boolean value specifying whether to use event bubbling or event capturing. The values are true and false. This parameter is optional also. We will see how to add an event handler to an element. One example is here: alert hello world. When the user clicks on an element, we need to display hello world, or alert hello world when the user clicks on an element. For that, element dot add event listener click comma function alert hello world. The function itself is specified there with the arguments or parameter. Second parameter is a function. You can do that particular function separately and specify the name of the function as the second argument. That way also it will work. So element dot add event listener. Element, you can specify one element name there. Dot add event listener, that is a method to be used, and two arguments are there: click and function. Here the complete function is specified in the arguments. You can also refer to an external named function. Likewise, the second example specifies that element dot add event listener click comma my function. My function is the name of the function that is defined under that particular command, function my function alert hello world. This is how an add event listener is used in your HTML code. Add many event handlers to the same event. The add event listener method allows you to add many events to the same element without overwriting existing events. Example: element dot add event listener click comma my function element dot add event listener click comma my second function. Likewise, you can add any number of event handlers. You can add events of different types to the same element. For example, suppose one particular element is there. When clicking on that particular element, you need to execute one particular JavaScript. When you point that particular, or your mouse is over that particular element, you need to execute another function or JavaScript. When you uh, move out of that particular element, then another function should be executed. So likewise, you can add events of different types to the same element also. For that, element dot add event listener mouse over one particular function element dot add event listener click comma another function my second function element dot add event listener mouse out my third function. Likewise, you can add different types of events to the particular element. Window object is out of our scope of the syllabus, but you can add an event handler to the window object. The add event listener method allows you to add event listeners on any HTML DOM object such as HTML elements, the HTML document, the window object, or other objects that support events like the XML HTTP request object. One example is given here. Add an event listener that fires or executes when a user resizes the window. So window object means resizing the window, minimizing the window, enabling the window, etc. Window dot add event listener. So instead of element or object or document, we will be using window here. Window is an object, that is a window object. Dot add event listener resize comma function name, or a function itself is specified there. So likewise, when the resize of window happens, something to be displayed or some code to be executed or some events should be event listener that fires something. That is how this example is defined. So on resize, a function is executed. Document.getElementById by id demo.inner html is equal to some text. Okay, so this is a simple example when we are dealing with window object. Another thing is passing parameter. When passing parameter values, use an anonymous function that calls the specified function with the parameters. In the example, element.addEventListener click followed by a function without a name, that is anonymous function. Function my function p1 comma p2, that function itself is calling another function with two arguments. My function is invoked by using p1 and p2 arguments. So when passing parameter values, you can use an anonymous function. So my function is there, so that is to be invoked from a function without any name that calls a specified function with the parameters p1 and p2 in this case. During this session we have discussed or just specified event bubbling or event capturing. We will see what are event bubbling and event capturing. There are two ways to event propagation in the HTML DOM: bubbling and capturing. Event propagation is a way of defining the element order when an event occurs. If you have a paragraph element or p element inside a div element and the user clicks on the paragraph element, which elements click event should be handled first. So that is propagation, event propagation. In bubbling, the innermost elements event is handled first and then the outer. The paragraph elements click event is handled first, then the div elements click event is handles. In capturing, event capturing, the outermost elements event is handled first and then the inner element. The div elements click event will be handled first, then the paragraph elements click event. So that is the difference between event bubbling and event capturing. In event bubbling, uh, the innermost elements event must be handled first. On the other hand, the capture event or event capturing, the outermost elements event is handled first. With the add event listener method, you can specify the propagation type by using the use capture parameter. Add event listener event function use capture. Use capture is a boolean value, true or false. The default value is false, which will use the bubbling propagation. When the value is set to true, the event uses capturing propagation. That is how event capturing and event bubbling is enabled or disabled. In our example, document.getElementById myp dot add event listener click comma my function comma true. So here the value is set to true. The event uses capturing propagation. Event capturing is done here for both the examples. For the second example, document.getElementById mydiv add event listener click comma my function comma true. So in both the case true is the value. So capturing propagation is the ordering here. The remove event listener method removes event handlers that have been attached with the add event listener method. The example is element.remove event listener mouse move comma my function. So this is regarding event listeners in JavaScript. We will see one simple example here. HTML followed by heading, head and title tag DOM tutorial, that is the title given here. In our body, one h1 or header is there, DOM lesson 1 followed by a paragraph hello world. So the node tree, how the node tree is defined here. From the HTML above you can read HTML is the root node and HTML has no parents. HTML is the parent of head and body. Head is the first child of HTML, body is the last child of HTML. And some more information you will get. Head has one child, that is title. Title has one child, a tree node, that is a DOM tutorial, that is a content there. Body has two children, H1 and P. H1 has one child, that is the content, DOM lesson 1, and paragraph has one child, hello world. H1 and H1 and P are siblings, the children of body tag. So they are siblings. So these are the information you are getting from a simple code specified in here. Node relationships. The node in the node tree have a hierarchical relationship to each other. The terms parent, child, sibling are used to describe the relationship. The terms parent, child, and siblings are used to describe the relationships here. In a node tree, the top node is called the root node or root. Every node has exactly one parent except the root, which has no parent. A node can have a number of children. Siblings are nodes with the same parent, both brothers or sisters. Thank you.